Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. Arsenal smashed Chelsea 5-0, and of course we're going to talk about that a little bit in this video. But a lot of people are comparing how open that game was, especially in the first half, to potentially what we're going to get on Sunday against Tottenham, a very uncompromising Ange Postecoglou who want to attack, who want to play on the front foot. And people are feeling like the way Arsenal are playing, the way they're scoring goals, the attacking football that we played, especially in that game against Chelsea, it's going to allow us to have a lot of opportunities to score. But I think this could be quite a different game. That's why I want to analyse and look ahead, particularly to how the different game plans between Chelsea and Tottenham might make this a very different affair for Arsenal, and what Arsenal might do in response to what Ange Postecoglou does so well for Spurs. This is not going to be an easy game. North London derbies never are, but the tactical matchup could be very interesting in particular. So I've got all my notes, I've got my tactical pad, lots in front of me, but I want to break it all down. We're going to start with the events at the Emirates, and Arsenal did, of course, smash Chelsea 5-0, 27 shots to their 7. It was 5, it could have been more. Arsenal incredibly dominant, and actually when you looked at that first half and performance alone, you'd think 2-3 of the goals were racked up in that time, but no, only the 1-0 lead at half time. We weren't quite as clinical, but we also weren't quite as controlled. It felt like Chelsea did have quite a few opportunities on the counter-attack, a few openings, but Arsenal wrestled back control of the game in the second half and made it very comfortable with Kai Havertz getting his goals as well. 27 to their 7 shots, 10 on target to their 1. But interestingly, we had 44% of the ball. We conceded possession in large moments of that game, but still racked up a 3.6 XG to their 1.6. 1.6 is probably a little bit more than we'd have wanted to have conceded to them, but the big thing is the clean sheet, and David Raya is on the brink of the Golden Glove. So let's talk about Arsenal's shape against Chelsea, because as we can see here from the tactical pad, it was quite interesting that for the first time we saw this midfield three of Rice, Partey and Ødegaard, and I think it was everything we hoped it would be. I thought Partey was brilliant on the day, Declan Rice phenomenal, but neither of those two were the best midfielder on the pitch. It was this guy, Martin Ødegaard. And what I found was, with the usual, wingers hugging the touchline, Tomiyasu inverting at times, but not massively, Ben White overlapping at times, it was really about the positions that Ødegaard and Rice were picking up because of Thomas Partey there at the base. I thought it was fascinating how many times, firstly, Declan Rice was sometimes out on the touchline, sometimes really, really high on Chelsea's last man. Let's move some Chelsea players forward to give a little bit more space to really illustrate our point. But sometimes Rice was really high up the pitch, and you saw him when he received the ball for that Trossard opener. He was really hanging in this space before Partey played that sort of pass through, and suddenly we're kind of narrowing in on goal with Trossard getting the goal. But the other thing I think you saw as well was Partey and Rice a little closer together at times, not always, but at times, and then Ødegaard floating into different areas. Sometimes Rice even ran beyond so that Ødegaard could float around. He popped up in so many different areas, Martin Ødegaard, and you can see it from the heat maps. We've got his Premier League season heat map first, where, as you can see, he really hugs that right 8 space in particular, really helps out in the right channel, and of course does drop deep at times. But what you saw against Chelsea, it's a very subtle difference, but a lot more around the centre circle, because he was dropping in there, not as much in those 10 spaces, but dropping very central because he was there, getting in possession alongside Thomas Partey. Declan Rice was break forward as well. So Ødegaard had a lot of freedom, and I think a lot of it was down to Thomas Partey being there and Declan Rice. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, firstly, let's have a little look at Havertz's goal. It's a sublime finish. It's a really good goal. Let's make everyone a touch smaller to really emphasise the space, because Ødegaard's got the ball here, but Partey and Declan Rice are behind him. And I think this is what I mean by he was able to pick up sort of more 10 spaces. I know here he's well in his own half, but I think he was able to drift at times because Declan Rice could drop deep, he could go into a double pivot alongside Partey, and Ødegaard could pick up those spaces at times. But it's all about the pass here. It's a sublime ball. And the thing is, I can't do justice to the curl on that pass to Kai Havertz before he finishes brilliantly, may I say. But it's a really, really brilliant pass. We'll watch it again. But it comes again from a more left/10 space. He's done that from a left central midfield space. There's a lot of debate right now about where Ødegaard's future is. Is it always out in that right 8 space where he's been combining well with White and Saka, or can he do more damage out in that left space where he can play those De Bruyne-esque passes? De Bruyne does that with his right foot from the other side, and Ødegaard has always had the talent and the quality to produce those passes. But do you see it as much because he's more limited in what he can do on his left foot out on the right-hand side in terms of really quick, direct passes that get you from your defensive third to your attacking third like that? I thought it was brilliant from Odegaard. We've seen evidence of him actually playing his best sort of more killer passes from that left channel before, and it comes with this pass that we saw against Brighton last season, and we all remember it, maybe the assist of the season, certainly from an Arsenal perspective, when he played that killer ball into Martinelli, who ran directly through on goal and scored. And we'll do it one more time, because he receives the ball from Granit Xhaka, it comes to him, and he plays it first time into Martinelli. That ability to put our forwards through on goal so quickly with his left foot as he drifted into that left space, that's something I want to see more of Odegaard. And so when we talk about adding another central midfielder this summer, and we look at the likes of Bruno Guimaraes who's been linked and others, you know, that profile is interesting. Do you get a 6 because Partey's not reliable and Rice does what he's been doing, like against Chelsea? Do you get an 8 so that Rice can be the 6 and then he does what Rice was doing against Chelsea? Or do you get another 10 who's right-footed so that Odegaard can move to that left-hand side and do more of what we saw there? It's going to be fascinating to see what he does in the summer, but we're not going to explore that too much now. I just think it's interesting how Odegaard has played, for me, 2 of his best passes in an Arsenal shirt and got his 2 best assists out on that left-hand side. But anyway, look, Rice, Odegaard, Partey facilitate each other brilliantly. So how will this game against Tottenham be different? Because I felt Chelsea wanted to counter. I felt their best moments came when Jackson was running one-on-one with Saliba, when at times Mudryk found a little bit of space, but he was poor on the day. Madueke took on Tomiyasu and put a good ball into the box that Jackson should have done better with. I felt their best moments came from counter-attacks, but Tottenham won't want to counter-attack. They'll want possession. So let's have a little look at this as a game plan. I've got the 2 11s here. Let's make them a touch bigger. I've got the 2 11s here. They typically line up in a 4-2-3-1. We know Doggie's missing for the season, so Ben Davies likely to come in. And then Maddison plays as the 10. I've actually got Basuma and Sarr the wrong way around, but that's not the important thing I want to highlight here. You'll also notice from my Arsenal 11, I've got Jesus in there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the first thing about Tottenham's shape is if we move them up the pitch, you'll see that Porro and Davis are moving very high and very central, and I've given Van de Ven the ball. The reason I think this is important is because where Arsenal play with inverted fullbacks, like a Zinchenko, sometimes Tomiyasu, sometimes it's White, who can tuck in to make it a base 2, with like a back 3 and build up, Tottenham are the opposite. Tottenham build more the way Man City did in the Centurion season, which sounds like a really high compliment. And at times it's worked for Tottenham, but at times it's left them really exposed as well. They play with, as you can see, let's put a circle around them we'll do it in blue. Davis and Porro, they build with them really, really high up the pitch. Now sometimes it'll actually be Sarr and Maddison that pick up those positions with Davis and Porro where Sarr and Maddison are now. But the point is they get really high and they get really central and they can really get, like, they're very adventurous as fullbacks. They almost, I mean, basically this would look a half normal shape if, let's do this actually. Let's go to here. If Werner and Kulusevski were there, with Davis and Porro there, that would almost be how Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool built up and played a lot, with their fullbacks kind of really high up the pitch, hugging the touchline, so that their sort of forwards could get more central. But they play it differently with Werner, Kulusevski and Davis and Porro attacking those spaces. Like I said, it normally be Udogie. So let's open this back up and show how this impacts Arsenal, because again, if we move them right up the pitch and we get Arsenal to more of a defensive shape with Van de Ven on the ball, the question is, what do Saka and Jesus do? And again, we'll talk about Jesus in a sec. I think there's a good chance that they might have to be drawn in to follow them as well. Now, it could be Rice and Odegaard that pick up those spaces, and you just have Odegaard, Partey and Rice as a flat 3 with Saka and Jesus more central. It's very possible. But that could cause confusion. Because if we just look at FB Ref, when you look at Arsenal and their wingers, here's Bukayo Saka's FB Ref defensive numbers. We alluded to this in the last Tactical Insight. He works incredibly hard for a winger playing in a team that have a lot of possession, that attack teams a lot, that are very frequently on the ball. You can see his numbers here. You know, Bukayo Saka is doing a lot of defensive work in the attacking third, in the middle third, in the defensive third. He's tackling a lot. He's committing tackles to a lot of dribblers as well. He's blocking a lot of passes, getting a lot of blocks in as well. His tackles or interceptions are there in the 74th percentile. So he does a lot of defensive work. So Arsenal, while Tottenham's shape allows for a counter-attack, where you'd think, all right, we'll just leave Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, Trossard, whoever it is, up the pitch to hurt Tottenham. That's not what Arsenal's wingers do. They tend to drop deep to try and stop what the opposition are doing as well. So I think with their wing backs and full backs getting really high up the pitch, that could be a problem for Arsenal. And, you know, like I said, the defensive line, I think, is the 4th highest in the league, according to Mark R stats. I mean, there's a good chance that Arsenal do have options for a counter-attack, do have opportunities to counter-attack. But it's about leaving the players in possession to do that. And I'm not sure that Arsenal will do that with Saka and Davis. So the other thing to talk about, as I mentioned here, is Jesus, because we've highlighted him here tracking Porro. But what will he do that maybe a Trossard won't offer quite as much? Now, if we move Tottenham all the way back into their build-up shape, and this is where Davis and Porro would be a little bit more tucked in so Sarr and Maddison can get forward. Again, it would be Sarr and Maddison probably on opposite sides, but that's not the important bit here. And Arsenal might go man for man with the press. This is what we did at the Emirates. We did this at the Emirates. Before we highlight it, the battle here really is so the likes of, you know, Jesus and Porro can win back possession. At times it was Jesus, you're winning the ball back on Maddison in the North London derby at the Emirates. But could that be a battle? Could Rice step up onto Basuma, who we know they like to play through? What we saw at the Emirates, where, don't get me wrong, Tottenham were very impressive. What we saw here, as you can see from this graphic from Who Scored, we've highlighted here the loss of possession. It's all there on the graphic for you to see. And this is every single time possession was lost for Arsenal and for Tottenham. And if you look at Arsenal, I mean, sure, they lost possession a few times. But if we actually highlight Tottenham here in yellow, quite a few times, I'm just trying to work out, they're the team in blue, quite a few times Tottenham lost the ball quite deep. That's the Maddison chance that led to, or the Maddison loss of possession that led to Jesus getting a shot on goal. Quite a few times Arsenal actually did win back the ball quite near Tottenham's goal, whereas Arsenal didn't lose it quite as much as Tottenham did, as you can see from the areas there. I mean, they did a couple of times, and actually, funnily enough, it was one of those turnovers that led to Tottenham's equaliser. But as you can see here, if we just actually get rid of the Arsenal ones, Tottenham did lose the ball quite often in around the penalty area because Arsenal pressed quite well. This was a game plan that we used against Villa, trying to create transitions. We used it against Brighton, so it was Brighton at home last season, we lost 3-0. It was Villa earlier this season at Villa Park, we lost 1-0. And it was in this North London derby that we drew 2-2. Now, we've done it in other games, but in quite a few of these games, we've actually ended up not winning the game, which is frustrating. But I do think that plan to win the ball back high up the pitch is something Arteta wanted to do quite a few times. And when we take it back to the Chelsea game, you see that we had 44% of the ball to Chelsea's 56%, despite having way more shots, despite scoring 5 goals. I do think Arsenal potentially willing to concede possession to Tottenham and to actually see what they do first, and rather than, you know, actually tracking their runners all the time and focusing on our defensive shape, can we win the ball high up the pitch before Porro, Davis get into those really attacking areas where they can hurt us? Really interested to see whether Arsenal try and keep Tottenham pinned in there with a really high press. And if they're to do it, I think Jesus might be the player they go with, because he's just been, I mean, let's get this open. We've got the 11s here. I just think Jesus, he did really well in the North London derby in that game. I thought he played quite well out on the left. He's got a little bit more natural pace to hurt Tottenham on the counter-attack than Trossard. So it just makes me wonder whether he'll be tempted to go for Jesus over Trossard for this one particular game and otherwise keep the rest of the team completely unchanged. But would it be hard on Trossard? Absolutely, because he's been so clutch for the team. Let me just show you his impressive 23-24 campaign. Because while he's got 15 goals in 42 appearances, that doesn't actually tell you the story about how impressive it is. He does have 2 assists as well, but that is 0.77 goals and assists per 90, which I think is around a goal and assist in 3 games out of 4, essentially. That's the rate that he has contributed to this team. Only 21 of his 42 appearances have been starts, and he's done it from 3 positions, as a false 9, out on the left wing, and as a central midfielder as well. So Trossard has been really, really important for Arsenal. He's been really, really clutch for us as well, getting big goals against Bayern Munich with the equaliser, against Wolves we needed the opener, and against Chelsea we needed the opener too. He is, I think, our most lethal finisher. So can you really go to a North London derby without him, where they might have a lot of opportunities? I think we will too, but you want your best finishers on the pitch for them. Let me know in the comment section below, who starts you? Is it Trossard, or could Jesus be the key for that press that we need in order to force Tottenham into a lot of errors that might get them a little bit flustered as Arsenal try and press for a win to contain or maintain our title hopes. I'd be really interested to see. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know your 11s for this game, and let me know how you think this game will pan out between Postecoglou and Arteta. I think it's going to be a really tactically fascinating game, and I think it's going to be one of those games where it could go quite badly for either team because of the nature in which both teams play. So yeah, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll catch you on AFTV very, very soon.